I think we may have just gotten a glimpse at what actors themselves want to see next in Star Wars, because Hayden Christensen was just asked about one of the biggest dreams Star Wars fans have had for years, a live-action Clone Wars project. And Hayden didn't just mention that he would be interested, he flat out said he wants this to happen. And Hayden didn't just say that he himself was interested, he started talking about bringing back Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Natalie Portman as Padme Amidala, and Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. And then, as if that wasn't enough, Ewan McGregor himself has now been talking about another Obi-Wan Kenobi story, one that could explore the years between the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 1 and A New Hope. And he even brought up getting connected with Master Yoda. So we're going to talk about Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor both wanting to be back in Star Wars and what this could mean for the future of Star Wars itself. So let's go ahead and roll the intro. What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon of Clan Brandalorian. We talk everything here on the channel in Star Wars. We talk all things lore, theories, Funko, and Lego. So if you're into any of those things right there, go ahead and consider subscribing. You can always change your mind later. Hayden Christensen recently appeared on the Jonas Brothers podcast titled Hey Jonas, and naturally the conversation turned toward his history with Star Wars. And Hayden brought up something that I think is going to get a lot of fans talking, the idea of doing a live-action Clone Wars project. Now obviously we have to make one distinction here. Nothing is confirmed, this is just something that Hayden Christensen would love to be a part of. But the fact that he is interested in revisiting that era says a lot, because Hayden has already gotten to experience one side of this. When he returned as Anakin in Ahsoka, we finally got to see Hayden portray a version of Anakin that was heavily influenced by the character Dave Filoni developed throughout the Clone Wars. And that's important because the Clone Wars essentially filled the emotional gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. We got to see Anakin Skywalker become a general. We saw his relationship with Ahsoka Tano, and we also got to see his relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi evolve. We also saw the Jedi slowly becoming more and more trapped by the war. So imagine taking that story and putting Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, and Samuel L. Jackson back into those roles. That's insane. And of course, with all four of these actors getting older, deepfake has become a huge thing lately, but I do like the route that they're doing with de-aging these characters. But one of the most interesting names that Hayden mentioned was Natalie Portman, because Padme is such an important part of Anakin's Clone Wars story. The animated series gave Padme a lot more to do than the movies had time for. A live-action Clone Wars story could finally give Natalie Portman the opportunity to play that version of Padme. And we're not talking about the Padme from The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, or even Revenge of the Sith. We're talking about her portraying that version of Padme from the Clone Wars era. So I think that would be incredible. And so the big question is, could they actually do this? Could Lucasfilm pull off a live-action Clone Wars series? And like I mentioned earlier, a live-action Clone Wars series would obviously require some serious de-aging and visual effects. We've already seen Lucasfilm experiment with this era, and the Clone Wars itself is now considered essential Star Wars viewing for a massive portion of the fan base. So the audience is already there, and the actors are more than interested to do it. Dave Filoni is obviously very familiar with this timeline, so that doesn't exactly mean that it's going to happen, but it makes it a little bit more interesting that these actors would be very up to this role. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Would you like to see a version of the Clone Wars in live action? Let me know down below. So let's go ahead and move on to Ewan McGregor talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi and what lies ahead for this character. We know that Ewan has been incredibly vocal over the last few years and wanting to continue playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. And now he's once again talking about the massive amount of Obi-Wan's life that remains unexplored. The original Obi-Wan Kenobi series takes place roughly 9 years before A New Hope, leaving a significant stretch of Obi-Wan's life before he eventually becomes Sir Alec Guinness's version of the character. And according to recent comments, Ewan McGregor has even discussed ideas for where another Obi-Wan project could go. And the idea that he brought up was Obi-Wan searching for Master Yoda. And that's where my Star Wars brain immediately starts going crazy. I just think back to where Obi-Wan is emotional at the end of Season 1. He's finally accepted Anakin's fate, he has reconnected with the Force, but most importantly, he encounters Qui-Gon Jinn's Force Ghost. Finally. That literally changes the entire projection of Obi-Wan Kenobi's character. I think a Season 2 could start off perfectly, Obi-Wan trying to find Yoda, telling him that he has more to learn. Qui-Gon has finally returned to Obi-Wan, and he has discovered that death isn't necessarily the end for a Jedi. And maybe now Obi-Wan wants to understand the Force on a deeper level. Who better to seek out than Master Yoda? And we also know that Yoda is in exile as well. He is on Dagobah. So if Obi-Wan were searching for Yoda, this could potentially become a really cool story about two Jedi Masters trying to understand what it means to survive the destruction of the Jedi Order. But of course, at Star Wars, there's always a catch. They would definitely have to have a run-in with a villain type character, kind of thicken the plot a little bit. And we do know that Star Wars has already told stories about Obi-Wan's years in exile. There are comics and other canon material that explores portions of his life between Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and A New Hope. So Lucasfilm couldn't come out and say, here's Obi-Wan's completely unknown life for the next 10 years, because some of that timeline isn't unknown anymore. But that's not necessarily a problem. Star Wars has been doing this for years. And we all know exactly where Obi-Wan has to end up. He's on Tatooine watching Luke Skywalker. He's learning the ways of becoming one with the Force. But I do think a Master Yoda storyline could actually make this story amazing. It could be more than just another Obi-Wan Kenobi adventure. It couldn't necessarily just be Obi-Wan goes to Dagobah and Yoda teaches him how to be a Jedi. That of course doesn't work. But instead I think it could be about the two survivors processing the fall of the Jedi Order. Yoda failed, Obi-Wan failed, and they both survived. So I think we could see some really cool stories if this project was to happen, but overall, I'm not too sure where I stand with it. But of course, with prequels, content, and characters from the prequels, I'm always down for it. So if Lucasfilm was to go ahead and make one of these projects, which one would you choose? Would you rather see an Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2, or would you rather see a live-action Clone Wars series? I don't know, you tell me, let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button as well as the subscribe button. Like I said earlier, you can always change your mind later. We got 2 membership options down below, and we're also live every single Sunday. Me and the homie John, we talk Star Wars, all things news, rumors, and of course, all of our breakdowns. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one. Clan Brandalorian, I'm out.